Okay, now it's slow, my computer here, but somehow. My internet is unstable. Let's see if we can have this chart on. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Param Om. Okay, we are back here with the Panchadasi, chapter 6, following the teachings, the transcription of the teaching of Swami Paramarthananda. We see on the class 8.8, sloka 23rd, Vidyarani analyzes the Jiva Atma Paramatma identity, you know, I mean, I would say equality or the sameness, okay? Vidyaranya analyzes Vidyatma Paramatma Aikya. For this, he has taken the example of the space. He also explained the 4 kinds of space in this regard. So, corresponding to those 4, Chaitanya, consciousness of Brahman, has been introduced. So we have this chart presenting, okay, on the upper side, the 4 aspects of Chaitanya, of consciousness, and below we have the 4 aspects of space. Okay, so we're gonna draw some analogies here, following the teachings. But Vidyaranya is doing that. And then he's going to follow the 4 pairs individually. So there will be 2 fours. So he's probably going to compare Brahman, the Absolute, with the Maha Akasha, and then the Ishvara consciousness in its totality with Mega Akasha, and so on. And then there is the Jala, which is the water in the pot, as the Jala, which appears as the mega space reflect on the surface of the water within the pot. So when he presented this space analogy, metaphor, so he still kept the water in the pot to better illustrate the nature of Akasha reflected on the surface within the space which holds the water, which holds the pot, and so on. Kutastha, Chaitanya, is where the whole creation is superimposed. So we want to understand this Kutastha, Chaitanya, exactly what Vidyaranya is trying to illustrate for this subtle distinction between Kutastha and Brahman, the Absolute. Shukma, Stula, Shariras, both of the bodies, the subtle and the physical body, are superimposed on Kutastha Chaitanya. So here we have a pointer, we have an indicator here. He says that Kutastha Chaitanya, you know, which appears on the upper left of the chart, it says that Kutastha is somehow, it is consciousness. Why? Because the physical body and the subtle body are superimposed on Kutastha. So it means to say that Kutastha is not the physical, the subtle body, and neither the causal body, is something other than the subtle body and the physical body. And it's clearly stated in here. They are both superimposed on Kutastha consciousness, Kutastha Chaitanya, which is called Adara Chaitanya, and it's also Paramatika Chaitanya, Satya. So it says that it's called Adara Chaitanya, but it shows that in the chart, no? Which is identical to Paramartika Satya. You see that he brings the Paramartika Satya, which is close to the concept of the Paramartika Jiva that we saw recently. Okay, this Kutastha Chaitanya, it's called Adara Chaitanya and also Paramartika Satya. Kuta means the anvil upon which the ironsmith is going to shape the iron once it is heated up to be shaped. The anvil means it's an analogy that indicates that there is something that does not change, so that changing phenomenon can be observed, witnessed. Okay, it's something which is stationary. So it is pointing to the fact that the Kutastha does not change, Kutastha Chaitanya, which is the self within the Jiva Atma. And then the two bodies change within the changeless Kutastha Chaitanya. In the same way, Brahman is stationary. Now he goes up. The pairs he was looking is possibly is the pairs like on consciousness, the original limitless consciousness and reflected consciousness as the Kutastha, but it's not quite reflected consciousness, and he has given us some hints of the distinction between the reflected consciousness and the Kutastha, and we're gonna see more of that as it unfolds. The changeless consciousness, in the same way Brahman is stationary and over which all other things take shape. So the changeless Brahman consciousness is called Kutastha Chaitanya. So it's not called Brahman, the absolute Chaitanya, okay? It's called Kutastha Chaitanya, okay? Why? Because it has to be something on which superimposition or phenomenal object, phenomenal experience can take place. So the mind, the intellect, the emotional center, the physical body as well, everything needs to take place on something which is phenomenal by nature. And that is the Kutastha Chaitanya, which is identical to Paramartika Chaitanya as well, or Paramartika Satyan, okay, as it was put in. The changeless consciousness is called Kutastha Chaitanya, Nirvikaratvat, Kutastha. So here, another indication, Nirvikara, that which is not subject to modification or change, okay? It's stationary, meaning to say it does not move, but it's not subject to modification. And then Nirvikaratvat, Kutastha. Now he gives the definition of Jiva Chaitanya. So now he's moving to the right side to see what is the Jiva, the individual soul. Of the two Shahiras, Sukshma has a unique capacity to form the reflection. So within Kutastha Chaitanya, there is a superimposition of the two bodies, the subtle and the physical. Within the subtle body, there is a formation of reflected Chaitanya, as we know, which is called Adhisthana Chaitanya. Through Sukshma Shahira, it extends to Stula Shahira also. So through the subtle body producing this reflection of consciousness, it extends to Shula, Shahira as well. Upon the Kutastha, the buddhi, which is Vyavaharika Satya, is superimposed because of a vidya or maya. So now it becomes a little bit more interesting. Upon the Kutastha, we have another superimposition. We know that the Shahira is a superimposition, but then we have another superimposition, which is the intellect, which is Vyavaharika Satya. So now we have the subtle body, we have the physical body, they are superimposition of the Kutastha, Chaitanya, but upon this superimposition of the physical and the subtle body, there is another superimposition which is totally subject, okay, which is the pratibimba, which is the aham, the aham that occurs on that reflection. Consciousness reflects on the sukshma shahira, the subtle body, produce the pratibimba chaitanya or chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. And this Abhasa Chaitanya is the Jiva. It's a confirmation of what we have seen and I have been repeating for a long time. And the Jiva is not the subtle body, is not Sukshma Shahira, okay? He is the Chidabhasa. It's a reflected consciousness, Pratibimba Chaitanya, to use another name. And this Abhasa Chaitanya, which is another name for the same phenomenon, this Abhasa Chaitanya is the Jiva Atma. That the reflect consciousness is called Jiva. So he's establishing the base here. Vidyaranya gives the reason for calling it a Jiva. Yeah? Whatever that holds the prana in the physical body is called Jiva. We have seen it in the previous, because this is a summary of the previous class. So whatever holds the prana in the physical body is called Jiva. I have never seen this definition of a Jiva before. I have seen different ones. But anything that holds the prana is in the physical body is called Jiva. It's by definition, by exclusion, it says that the Jiva without the physical body is not called a Jiva, which was part of my question to Swami Paramarthananda that Mark has presented. Whatever holds the prana in the physical body is called Jiva. As long as Chidabhasa is there in the body, so long as the prana will be there, and the moment Chidabhasa changes that residence, the Jiva is out. Pancha pranas cannot send Chidabhasa and continue in the body. So the same pranas that are going to pull, you remember the 5 physiological pranas, and one of them is to extract the soul from the physical body. And here he points to that. Pancha pranas cannot pull Chidabhasa, which is the soul. You understand? The soul. So cannot put Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness or the mind, and remain in the body, So in order to pull, because we always heard that there are the pranas, one of them is going to pull the subtle body or the Jiva from the physical body. In order to do that, these pranas also leave the body, it says here. It also leaves the body, and the body then is deprived of prana. Therefore, we say the last breath, it went out and never came in again, this intelligently designed air, So, and the body becomes lifeless. The moment that this Jiva, this Chidabhasa, this Pratibimba Chaitanya leaves the body, the pranas also quit the body, because the pranas, although they are there to operate the body, they have no function to perform in a lifeless body. Okay, and as we know, what enlivens the physical body is the subtle body. We think that, oh, what enlivens every living creature is consciousness. No, consciousness, yes, enlivens every living creature indirectly. It needs a subtle body. It enlivens the subtle body, and the subtle body will vivify the physical body, as we know. Chidabhasa, the reflected consciousness alone, holds the prana in the body. So it is the mind, it is the jiva, it is not the subtle body. Subtle body is inert matter / energy. It is the Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. It is the jiva, it is the mind, it is the soul, howsoever we want to refer to it, is that which holds the prana in the physical body. And this Chidabhasa alone takes the prana from the physical body. For Chidabhasa to get a transfer, the decision, the reason is not mentioned, but we should know. Parabhada karma decides how long a soul should remain in a certain physical body. It's called Abhasa Chaitanya. This Vyavaharika Chidabhasa. So at the same time, he says that the Chidabhasa is a subjective entity, okay? So it is the mind, and the mind is something subjective. It's not objective, okay? It's the seer. So this Vyavaharika Chidabhasa, this Vyavaharika Chidabhasa alone is affected by samsara. Just a moment, I misread something here. Okay. It is this Abhasa Chaitanya that is otherwise called Chidabhasa or Pratibimba Chaitanya, or the Jiva, that decides, that can pull the pranas from the body and allow the body to decay. This Jiva alone is the victim of samsara. So did I change? Did I jump? For Chidabhasa to get transfer, the decision, the reason is done by Prabhupada Karma. It is this Abhasa Chaitanya that is otherwise called reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa, Pratibimba Chaitanya, or Jiva, let's call it Jiva. But it's good to have all these names, because then we develop a larger picture and we can use these other words that we find here and there without getting confused by different words, you know. So Chaitanya or Jiva, this Jiva alone is the victim of samsara. Very interesting, huh? This Jiva alone is the victim of samsara. So what is the victim of samsara? It's the mind of the individual, yeah? Which is the reflected consciousness, which is pratibhasika, not vyavaharika. But here he calls this vyavaharika. So the one who suffers samsara is the pratibhasika, is the reflect, it is the reflect consciousness appearing as the mind and the intellect. And then once moved by likes and dislikes, it's going to find great frustration and suffering. And it becomes a victim of samsara, a victim of the world, being under the spell of ignorance, of avidya. It becomes a victim in the sense that it suffers its experience. And then he talks about vyavaharika that made me a bit confused. This vyavaharika Chidabhasa alone is affected by samsara. Maybe he's trying to make a distinction between the vyavaharika Chidabhasa and the pratibhasika Chidabhasa, but he's making the vyavaharika as something very objective. This Vyavahara, let's see if it clarifies for me as we go on, or for you guys as we move on, or if it has clarified for you, please help me out.
I'm wondering if when we're talking about Vyavaharika Chittabhasa, which is the transactional reflective consciousness, you need the reflective medium, right? And so in that case, there is samsara. I suppose that once the Chittabhasa no longer holds the prana, then there's still samsara, right? Because they're the different lokas, the karmas still may be in potential form, but samsara meaning change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Continue.
Yeah. And it's the soul is still subject to samsara, although it's deprived of a physical body. That's an excellent point, because karma is still operating there. But I'm just curious to understand why he calls it Vyavaharika Chittabhasa rather than the Pratibhasika Chittabhasa. So you present some hints there.
Isn't it? Because when he's talking about the Vyavaharika, I think he's talking about the mind-body complex, because Vyavaharika generally refers to the physical world, yeah? So I think he's actually talking about the mind-body physical complex.
Yeah, most probably that's where he's going with this, the distinction is that the Vyavaharika Chittabhasa is the Jiva on the right side of the chart, and Kutastha is the Atma on the left side of the chart.
Yeah.
And because a Jiva, he already determined that a Jiva needs to be anchored to the physical body, and needs to be holding the pranas in the physical body to be called a Jiva, which is the inference or the understanding I have going through all these teachings and sharing the teachings and studying the teaching. So a Jiva is constituted once it is really holding the pranas on a physical means of experience, and that's probably what he's trying to say, Mark. Yeah. Anything else, Mark, or anybody else?
Well, he did actually clarify when I asked him your question. He did actually clarify about the body-mind complex and needing this to fulfill our karma, and it being the vehicle of samsara, really. So yeah, it does make sense to me what you just said.
Okay. I hope you're going to find a way to send that recording to me, Mark.
I am. I'm looking for a way. The trouble is I recorded it on my phone and I can't find a method to send it. I think I'm going to have to record it onto another machine and create a PFD file or whatever, and then send it as that.
Yeah.
I think I have to take it from this recording onto another one, and
yeah,
I haven't got the capacity on my phone to make a file out of it.
I'm not in a hurry. I have this question for my entire life. The questions I present to you, I can wait another weeks or months until you figure it out. There's no rush or anxiety on my side. You understand? Thank you.
It won't take that long. When I get home, I've got a specialist who can help me do this, and she can definitely sort it out.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
It won't be long.
Yeah. Okay, we are talking here about the Chittabhasa affected by samsara. He is a helpless victim of samsara in the hands of Prarabdha and Sanchita karmas and Agami karmas. Jiva cannot protest, and whenever the karma is over, Jiva cannot protest, and whenever the karma is over, Chittabhasa will have to leave the body. So Jiva cannot protest. So Jiva must, I mean, it protests, it kicks and screams and gets angry and, but a mature and wise Jiva will understand that it's all karma in operation, and when the death comes, it should not protest because it's time to leave this physical body, yeah. And then Shidabhaza will have to leave the physical body because of karma. There is travel, there is sukha, sukha and dukkha. Okay, is pleasant experience, sweet and bitter results of action. Let me. Okay. Favorable, sukha and dukkha, etc. is there. All these put together is called the jiva. Yeah? All karmas are vyavaharika satya. Okay. Is the physical, material, and subtle altogether, apparent reality. All karmas are vyavaharika satya. And from the standpoint of one mithya, another mithya is satya. All karmas are vyavaharika satya. And from the standpoint of one mithya, another mithya is satya. Okay, this is interesting. From the standpoint of dream body, from the standpoint of a dream body, dream fire is satya. From Jiva Drishti, samsara is satya. You can ignore samsara as mithya under the condition of Kutastha only. From the point of view of Jiva, you cannot brush aside your problems. We always look at Jiva from Vyavaharika angle. And then problem remains there if we do so. Only when you look from the Paramarthika angle, you will find that Vyavaharika is mithya. That's very rich paragraph here. So he's saying that all karmas of Vyavaharika satya is mithya. And from the standpoint of one mithya, another mithya is satya. From the standpoint of one mithya, another mithya is satya. So once we are in mithya, I'm not quite sure. Let me read again the following. From the standpoint of dream body, dream fire is satya. So the body is dreaming, the body-mind complex is dreaming, and then there is fire, and fire is going to appear as real. So likewise, from the standpoint of one mithya, which is Vyavaharika satya, the karma, from the standpoint of one mithya, which would be all karmas of Vyavaharika satya, for one mithya, another mithya is satya. So we take karma to be real from once we are under the spell of ignorance, exhausting our karma. But from Jiva Drishti, samsara is satya. I forgot the meaning of Drishti. Can you help me, any one of you?
I think it means from the point of view of the jiva.
Jiva Drishti is point of view. From the point of view of Jiva, samsara is satya. Yeah, that's the point. I had a difficulty to appreciate the passage when he says from the standpoint of one mithya, another mithya is satya. So it's just that we superimpose reality to karma and everything else. All karmas of Vyavaharika satya, it means is an apparent reality. And from the standpoint of one mithya, the body-mind complex, karma seems to be satya, real. From the standpoint of a dream body, the dream fire appears to be real. From the standpoint of Jiva, samsara is real. You can ignore samsara as mithya under the condition of Kutastha, and only from that standpoint, from that angle, you can ignore samsara, you can discard samsara, or you can reject the world as mithya under that condition called condition or a certain identity, you know, as the Kutastha. And then only then we can reject, or we can say samsara is mithya. Otherwise, it's just delusion. Otherwise, it's just us deceiving ourselves, as we know. From the point of view of Jiva, you cannot brush aside your daily life problems. You cannot. We always look at Jiva from Vyavaharika angle, and then problems remains there. So our Jiva, under the spell of ignorance, identified with the body-mind complex as the body-mind complex, cannot solve its problems, not even by saying that all of that is mithya, because in the spiritual world, it's very common this, They say, okay, now I got the knowledge of Satya and Mithya, and I have a lot of problems at me now, but I just apply the knowledge, and they say that the world is Mithya, my experience is Mithya, my karma is Mithya, and so on. So we cannot brush aside our experience, you know, for as long as we identified with the body-mind as the body-mind. We always look at Jiva from the Vyavaharika angle, and then the problems remains there. We cannot solve the problem from the same order in which the problems are solved, because the problems of the world they are unsolvable. They can be manageable, but never solved. So you can solve the problems of the world by understanding that there is an aspect in our identity or our human experience that is free from the world and its problems. We always look at Jiva from Vyavaharika, and the problems remain. Only when we look at the Jiva from Paramartika angle, we find that Vyavaharika is mithya as well. So meaning to say, the mind, the intellect, and the memory system, my history, my notions, and everything, the physical body, the Jiva itself is mithya, but there is something infusing the Jiva Atma, the Jiva Atma, which is Atma, as it points out there. Kutastha is the Atma. So it's the Atma manifest in the micro. The Atma as the macro, the absolute consciousness, is the unmanifest Chaitanya, unmanifest Brahman. But my unmanifest Brahman manifests itself as the manifest Atma, manifest Jiva Atma. It is of the same nature of original absolute consciousness, but appears in the micro as the individual soul. And the individual soul is Chaitanya, is consciousness, but it needs to really know it directly as a paroksha yana, so that it can say, so everything here is mithya, and mithya cannot touch myself as satya. Only then the individual, the Jiva, the individual soul, can have experiences in the world in spite of difficulties, including the death, departure, or decay of the physical body, keeping its clarity and certainty, which brings that strength for dealing with anything in the world, including the departure from this apparent reality, when I see that the body is decaying, developing illness, and it's about to die. So that's the bottom line. We need to internalize this teaching until we can say this is mithya, and that then has a real effect. We fake it until we make it, as we say, but sooner or later we need to make it so that we don't need to fake it anymore. So this was the verse 23rd that I printed in here. By the way, this chapter has, Lynn has shared this document with the verses only translated into English, and the translation is very good, modern. And I was surprised to see that this chapter 6, if I remember well, is the largest on Panchadasi, and it has 290 verses, okay? It is a book on its own. And we could almost do a webinar only on chapter 6 of Panchadasi, and I will consider maybe to pull it and then to keep the inquiry into existence, Panchadasi only up to chapter 5. And then from chapter 6, we call it chapter 6 of Panchadasi by Vidyaranya or something like that, you know, by Vidyaranya and Swami Paramarthananda. The verse 23rd that we have just concluded says that on the Kutastha is superimposed by imagination. In the intellect, the buddhi, the intellect is superimposed. The aham, the reflection of Kutastha in the intellect is animated by vitality, and it's called the Jiva. So very nice. The reflection, this phenomenon called the Kutastha, which is a superimposition in the intellect. Okay, it's called Kutastha, and it's animated by the pranas, and this is called the Jiva. It is subject to transmigration. It's subject to change and to transmigration. Okay, so now we go to the next verse, which is the sloka 24. It says, as the Akasa, the space in a pot, is concealed by the Akasa reflecting the surface of the water with which the pot is filled, so Kutastha is obscured by Jiva. This principle is called obscuring or superimposition. How beautiful, huh? I'm going to repeat this verse. As the space, Akasa, in a pot is concealed by the Akasa reflect in the surface of the water in which the pot is filled. So we have space. Space receives and accommodates water. To begin with, the pot apparently accommodates space, and then this space within the pot accommodates water. This water apparently is going to conceal the space. Yeah? And then it says here that this space in a pot is concealed by what? By the space reflect on the surface of the water, which is filled into the pot. Okay, so we have the pot, we have water, and then the water is permeated and pervaded by space. But then the moment that we have a reflection on the surface of the water, there is another space which appears, and this space is the space above the surface of the water, reflected space, okay? And then this reflected space is called the Jiva, and this reflected space is going to obscure or superimpose the space containing the water. You understand? We don't see, we don't foresee, we don't have any sensory perception of the space anymore, and especially because it is already reflecting another space, which is the space above. So we have consciousness likewise, which reflects in the surface, let's say, on the mirror-like subtle body, reflecting medium. And then it produces a different kind of space, in the analogy of the clouds and so on, analogy of the surface of the water within the pot. And then we have another space, and these are the spaces going to conceal or obscure or seal or veil, the original space, the original consciousness. And then it says here that this principle Akasa is reflected in the water with which the pot is filled. So Kutastha is obscured in the same way Kutastha is obscured by Jiva. So we have Jiva on one side, and then we have Kutastha. In the same way, we have Kutastha, which is synonymous of consciousness, manifest in Mithya. And then that manifestation, called reflected consciousness, Pratyabimba Chaitanya, is going to produce what? The Jiva. And then the Jiva is going to obscure, conceal, or superimpose itself on Kutastha, which is original limitless consciousness appearing in the manifest, you understand, as reflected consciousness, which is fundamentally of the same nature as absolute consciousness or absolute Brahman. This principle is called mutual obscuring or mutual superimposition. Why he's saying mutual obscuring? The Kutastha is obscured by the Jiva. The space within the pot is obscured by the reflected space. This principle is called obscuring or superimposition, but why he's saying mutual obscuring or mutual superimposition? Mutual would be the space above, reflect on the surface, is obscuring the space within the pot. And then we would have to go back and say the space within the pot holding the water is obscuring the reflected space, which does not seem to be the case. So I'm sure we're going to understand as we go through the exposition. Let's see what Lynn has to say.
Well, my only understanding of mutual superimposition is that is that the Jiva is taken, consciousness is taken to be the Jiva, and the Jiva is taken to be consciousness.
Yeah.
So
it may be as simple as that, because consciousness somehow identifies itself as the Jiva, and then the Jiva is going to obscure the fundamental nature of consciousness, which is not limited by the Jiva. Yeah, I think it's on those lines. Yeah. One problem that Jiva faces in the Vyavaharika Chidabhasa Jiva, in Paramartika Chittirupa Kutastha, both of them exist in one and the same place. Yeah. It will not be possible for us to separate them physically. It is because of the coexistence in one locus that they get mixed up and confused. The coexistence of the Adara Chaitanya and the Abhasa Chaitanya, or reflect consciousness, or Kutastha, Kutastha and Jiva, they coexist in one locus, and therefore we mix them up. Adi Shankaracharya starts this mixing up in one of the Brahma Sutras. So I heard about that before from Swamiji. from Paramarthananda. One of the Brahma Sutras, Shankaracharya unfolds. Just imagine how deeply and in such a nuance to make a huge voluminous scripture on the problem of a mixture, mixing up of Kutastha and Jiva, because of they coexisting in the same time space, in the same phenomenal world. We mix them up. Adi Shankara has this Brahma Sutra. Even when you use the word I, in that I itself, both coexist, and therefore we mix up the two, and therefore we get into the problem. So we say I, and that I represents both Kutastha and the Jiva. The Jiva is that transactional entity that refers itself to the body-mind and its roles in society. But then the same I is also representing Kutastha, which is consciousness, which is free and limitless by nature. Kutastha Chaitanya is mixed and lost sight of, because of the Akasa Chaitanya, Dara Chaitanya, is disowned. So Kutastha Chaitanya is missed out, is lost and lost sight of. We lose sight of because of the Akasa Chaitanya. So Akasa Chaitanya is the reflect consciousness, and Kutastha Chaitanya the consciousness, and then we lose sight of the Kutastha Chaitanya because of the mind. We identify with the mind, and then the original limitless consciousness is disowned. The same way the pot space is lost sight and disowned, and now due to the reflected space on the surface of the water. When you look inside the pot, you see a Dara Chaitanya, which was there before the pot came, before the water came, and after the pot came, a new Akasha came. The space reflects in the water. So once we have the water there, we lose sight of the space because we are going to be distracted or misled by the reflection of space within the surface of the water. The uniqueness of water is the reflection of stars and sky and space. And the starry space is there inside the sky. And so we observe Jalaksha, and we lose Jalakasha, and Gatakasha, which is eternal. So now he's referring to on the lower side, Gatatasha and Mahakasha. So let me see here. Yeah, most probably. But why they are using different names? Here he presents on the chart Mahakasha and Megakasha. Now they change the name, and he says that the uniqueness of the water is to produce the space, not only space, but stars and moon and all kinds of things. So we observe the reflect space, Galakasha, and we lose the original space. The original space is eternal, and the Galakasha is a phenomenon that can be removed if we throw away the water. One space is real, another space is an appearance. We're seeing a reflection within the surface of the water. One space is eternal, another space is ephemeral. Gatatasha, Gat Akasha is overshadowed or concealed by the Jala Akasha. The Jala Akasha has temporarily come, and this steals this show while the original Akasha is forgotten. Beautifully put. Yeah? So it seems to be a show. Every Jiva feels itself to be a great star. Yeah? Sometimes, living a successful drama, and sometimes a dramatic, painful drama. But it takes over the scene. Yeah? So it steals the show, as Swami puts, while the original space is forgotten. The duplicate ever overshadows the original. Very interesting statement. The duplicate ever overshadows the original. Maya is best, and poor Brahman is not able to market itself and ascertain itself. Therefore, Kutastha is concealed. So why Maya has more power than Brahman? It's said that Brahman has no power. It's just by nature, it is the conscious existence of every phenomenal experience. Yeah? The process in which we miss Adhisthana and take the Adhyasa is the process of missing and taking. It's called a mistake, and it's called Anyonya Adhyasa. It is mutual mixing up or confusion. So we miss our free, limitless nature as Chaitanya, as consciousness, Sachit Ananda, and we take ourselves to be, by mistake, by confusion, our limited Jiva. This is due to a mixing up or confusion. It's missing and then mistaking. Missing and mistaking. Swami Shimayananda used to say very often. The misapprehension of what you are brings about the non-apprehension, the non-clear apprehension of what you are brings about the misapprehension. I am the Jiva Atma. I am the limited Jiva. This is mutual mixing up or mutual confusion. Okay, we have lost Mark here. Most probably he ran out of signal. I would prefer to carry on with him. I'm going to find out if Monday he's traveling. If by any chance, no, I think he's still there. Yeah. But anyhow, I will see if we carry on with him. Very soon we will be over with Christmas season and New Year. And then Claude is going to be available and Mark is going to be back in Spain soon. So things are going to be back to normal. And we're going to have great fun with this verse. Don't you think so, Lynn?
I am very happy we're doing Swami P's explication of the text. It's quite lovely.
It is lovely.
Thank you for that.
Are you enjoying, Sylvia?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear
I
you.
lose it sometime, but when you explain it, then I understand. Yeah.
Okie doke. So we're gonna.
I'm losing a bit of this end, Alindo. Not sure if it's.
Oh, you're still there with us?
Mark is here.
Yeah, I'm
His signal is bad. Mark, when you go back to Spain?
About half of it.
Is next Monday? Are you available for our class? Okay, I will get in contact with him by WhatsApp, and then I will know better. I hope next Monday we have at least the 4 of us, and then we carry on. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. Namaste. Love you. Good Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Islander.
we meet again next Monday. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Great. Bye now.